wife's in the ER. We found her with her lover.
The ringing of the phone shattered the stillness of my afternoon. The voice on the other end was calm, almost clinical, but the words hit me like a thunderclap. Your wife's in the ER. We found her with her lover. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't make sense of what I'd just heard. The words echoed in my mind, over and over, as if they were trying to break through some fog of disbelief. I had never seen this coming. In my mind, my wife and I were solid, unbreakable. We had built a life together, filled with moments of love, laughter, and quiet understanding. So, how could this be real? How could the woman I trusted with my heart be lying in a hospital bed, injured, with another man at her side? I barely registered the drive to the hospital. My hands gripped the wheel tightly, knuckles white. Every second felt like an eternity. My mind raced. Was she okay? What had happened? But beneath the panic, there was something darker growing. Something I couldn't name yet, but I knew it would change everything. And as I pulled into the hospital parking lot, I had no idea just how much. The drive to the hospital felt like it took forever. I barely registered the world around me, the blur of passing cars, the hum of the engine, the screeching tires as I took corners too sharply. My mind was elsewhere, spinning with 1,000 questions, none of them making sense. What happened? How could she be with him? The phone call had come out of nowhere, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been off for a while. The signs I hadn't seen, the late nights, the unexplained absences. But no, this wasn't real. It couldn't be. The cold grip of disbelief settled into my chest as I floored the accelerator. Every red light seemed like a cruel joke, holding me back from the truth. I thought about her, my wife, lying in a hospital bed, and a sharp pang of panic hit my gut. Was she hurt? Worse, was she hurt because of him? The image of her with another man, the one who had taken my place, gnawed at me like a silent poison. 1,000 memories flashed before my eyes. Our wedding day, our first kiss, the way she used to look at me, so full of love. Had it all been a lie? The thought was unbearable. My hands tightened on the wheel, knuckles white, but nothing could stop the pounding in my head. Nothing could stop the dread creeping up my spine. I had to get to her. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The hospital loomed ahead, its sterile, impersonal walls stark against the dimming sky. I parked in the lot with shaky hands, the weight of what I was about to face settling heavy in my chest. The fluorescent lights from the building flickered, casting an eerie glow that only made the cold emptiness inside me grow. I could barely feel my legs as I stepped out of the car, my heart racing. The drive had felt like a nightmare, but now the nightmare was real. Inside, the hospital was buzzing with frantic energy. Doctors and scrubs rushed past. Nurses whispered behind their desks, and the smell of antiseptic hit me like a slap in the face. I approached the receptionist, trying to mask the panic in my voice as I asked for my wife. "Please, my wife's here." I started, but the words stuck in my throat. The woman at the desk looked up from her computer. Her face momentarily blanked before she spoke. "Room 314, she said, her voice flat, as though she'd said this to hundreds of other frantic husbands today. I muttered a thank you and hurried down the hallway, my footsteps echoing in the quiet. Each turn seemed to stretch on longer than the last. My mind was still reeling, my thoughts like shards of glass, sharp and cutting with every passing second. What am I going to find? What happened to her? When I reached the door of room 314, I paused. The harsh sound of my breath filled the space around me as I stood frozen, heart pounding in my chest. Everything had led to this moment. I pushed the door open slowly, my hand trembling. The door creaked open, and my breath hitched in my throat. The sterile, clinical scent of the hospital room seemed to suffocate me as my eyes immediately locked onto her. My wife, pale, bruised, and lying motionless on the bed, was hooked up to an 4. A sharp pain shot through my chest at the sight of her. She looked so fragile, so helpless, and for a split second, the anger inside me dissipated, replaced by concern. Is she okay? I thought, my mind scrambling to make sense of what I was seeing. But as my gaze shifted, everything else seemed to crumble away. Next to her, lying on the other bed, was a man I didn't recognize. His face was bruised, his clothes torn, and he was covered in cuts and scrapes. He was unconscious, his breathing shallow, but alive. For a moment, I thought it could be some kind of accident. Maybe they'd both been caught in some terrible situation. But then I saw the way his hand was resting just a little too close to hers, fingers grazing the edge of her blanket. I felt a sickening jolt in my stomach. I stepped further into the room, my eyes not leaving them. I wanted to shout, to scream. What the hell is going on here? My wife's eyes fluttered open at the sound of my footsteps. She looked at me, her face an image of guilt and fear. The moment her eyes met mine, I saw it, the regret, the apology that never needed to be spoken. But there was also something else, a cold, painful truth I wasn't prepared for. "John," she whispered, her voice trembling. But before she could say more, the man stirred in the bed next to her. Slowly, he opened his eyes, locking onto me with a gaze I couldn't understand, calm, almost too calm. My blood ran cold. He was awake, and he was my wife's lover. The room felt suffocating as I stood frozen in the doorway, my mind struggling to process what my eyes were telling me. The woman I had loved, the woman I thought I knew. She was here, lying next to another man, and in the most unimaginable way. Anger surged through me, hot and overwhelming. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, but I could barely form words. I took a step toward her bed, my voice low and dangerous. "What the hell is going on? Emily? Who is he?" My hands trembled at my sides, but I clenched them into fists to stop the shaking. She flinched at the sound of my voice, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and guilt. Her lips parted as if she was about to speak, but nothing came out at first. She opened her mouth again, her breath catching. "John, I never meant for you to find out this way." Her voice cracked, but there was no escaping the weight of her words. "You never meant for me to find out?" I spat, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "You thought you could hide this from me forever? From us?" The other man, her lover, shifted in his bed, groaning softly as he stirred. His eyes met mine, cool and detached, like he didn't even care that I was standing there, staring at the wreckage of my life. "She didn't mean to hurt you," he said quietly, his tone almost patronizing. "But she found something in me that she couldn't find with you." I felt the rage in my chest tighten like a vice. So this was the man who'd taken her away from me, the man who had replaced me in her life. How long? I demanded, my voice shaking with anger and heartbreak. How long has this been going on? Her eyes filled with tears, and I saw her struggle to answer. She didn't have to. The silence spoke louder than any words could. The silence in the room was deafening, and in that moment, I felt completely detached from everything around me. My wife, the woman I had trusted with my heart, sat there crying, her face a mask of regret. The other man, her lover, lay silently, his presence now an unbearable reminder of the betrayal. I didn't know where to look, what to say, or how to process the reality crashing down around me. Every part of me wanted to scream at her, to demand every single detail, but something inside me shattered before I could. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the life I thought we had, the love I thought we shared, and the trust I'd given her so freely. It was all a lie. "John, please," Emily whispered, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away before she could touch me. I couldn't bear to feel her near me right now. The pain in my chest felt like a slow suffocation. My hands shook uncontrollably as I turned to leave, my heart heavy with 1,000 unanswered questions. Could I ever forgive her? Could we rebuild what was broken? I didn't know. But one thing was clear this moment. This betrayal would haunt me forever. The drive home was a blur. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white, but I barely felt anything. I couldn't stop replaying the scene in my head. The look in Emily's eyes, the man in the bed beside her, his words still echoing in my ears. "She found something in him that she couldn't find with you." The phrase looped in my mind like a cruel refrain. I pulled into the driveway, but nothing felt familiar anymore. The house that had once been our sanctuary now seemed hollow, like a shell of what it used to be. I sat there for a while, staring at the front door. Every corner of this place held memories, our laughter, our plans for the future. It all felt like a lie now. I didn't know what to do. Leave? Stay? The truth was, I was lost. I couldn't figure out if my pain was more about the betrayal or about losing the life I had imagined. The future we had talked about now seemed like a dream I could never return to. I sank into the couch, the weight of everything crushing me. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, or if Emily and I even had a tomorrow. But one thing was certain. Everything had changed, and I didn't know how to fix it.